Hello everyone, this is the Survival Channel, and today I'm reviewing a Swedish-type axe from the forge of Boris Yurgin. Now I will conduct a series of tests with him. I'll tell you more about the axe. I will share my opinion. So what do we have? And what we actually have? Classic Swedish-type axe. According to Boris Yurgin, adapted to the parameters of a station wagon. I'll start as always in order with the equipment. Well, in my case, with its complete absence. I don't know if Boris sews blade covers for axes, but the axe came to me without it. That's why I sewed it myself. I literally don't know. Well, maybe in 15 minutes. There is nothing complicated about it if you have 2 pieces of leather, and hands grow from where they should. This case is simply necessary for safe transportation of the axe during the march. Otherwise, injury is simply guaranteed. The general concept of the axe is, as I said, typical, or classic. Features include a wide eye with shaped cheeks, also a wide striking surface on the butt, and of course the traditional narrow wedge convergence of the working web. The axe itself was forged from steel 8, and during the full cycle of heat treatment, from anal hardening in the area of the cutting edge, the slopes of the axe are straight, with micro feed. The length of the cutting edge is 10 centimeters. The front part bears the master's mark. In the garden, a straight axe with a wedged edge. Simplified type of handle or hatchet. From the feature, only expanding asymmetrical mushroom at the end of the handle, for that to hold the axe more securely while working. Axe handle made of ash. The total length is 60 centimeters. Total weight of the axe 1 kilogram 460 grams. Well, now let's work with this axe and check it out in real-life application conditions, and we will draw the appropriate conclusions. I will start traditionally with checking the basic state, your working tool. In particular, I'm interested in the degree of spiciness with which this axe comes from the master. I will check on a standard A4 sheet of paper. Friends, I think you can see it perfectly well without my comments. How well the tool is sharpened. In this regard, Boris really cares. Although it is worth noting that an axe doesn't need to be that sharp, so that it cuts paper with ease. No matter how you look at it, it's still a chopping tool. There is an opinion that here in general, razor sharp. That's how it is in terms of basic sharpness. 5 with 2 pluses, and that's more than enough for us to test the axe's functionality to the fullest extent. Hey friends, today's test review is a tradition that has already been established. I will be filming in the format of a real field trip, especially since I'm on vacation now. Finally, I'll go to the good old days, places of my childhood and youth. There on the far frontier, I had an outpost set up. It must have fallen into disrepair. I'll get to that place now and try restore it. And as you yourself understand, without active work with an axe, there is no way to get around it. And in this section of the river I swam all my childhood. And it's a shame to see that everything here is abandoned and overgrown. There used to be nowhere to sit here. There were so many people on the shore. Well, as they say, everything flows, everything changes. New generations have completely different interests. Unfortunately, I would like to note the river flooding, which is not typical for autumn. Usually the water decreases in winter. And here we see, picture back. I hope the old bridge has been preserved. I won't have to go across the river. More extra mileage. Well, the moment of truth. So, well, it seems like that. More or less it has been preserved. I don't know how stable it is. Plop down now. I really wouldn't like to. Yes, the design is shaky to say the least. And of course, it's unpleasant friends that. My dear little river of Schurkaust. Already thoroughly overgrown. And all this is easy to explain with lack of interest among young people to the river as a reservoir and as a form of recreation in Blesnivo. Well, right behind the river the forest begins. Yes, it's an unpleasant sight. There are clear signs that the forest here was on fire. Charred trunks from the ground up to 2 meters high. Naturally, this led to the withering of trees. I'll just walk around here now. And the so-called Rubicon, which is a railway embankment. And having crossed this line, it will be revealed to me. Road to the big forest. Well, here we are. Well, here everything starts to get serious. I hope I'll take the right direction right away. And I won't have to get lost. After all, I haven't visited for about 2 years. Your distant parking lot or outpost. And it's not a fact that it will be possible to find it quickly right away. But nevertheless, I remember the landmark. I think everything will work out. And here Nora looks like a fox. 100% fox. From minks there is. And fresh traces. I think it is inhabited. Increasingly, had a little bit with half an hour to chat. But it seems like I found it. An old abandoned path, which I most likely tapped out at some point. The camera will hardly convey it. She's barely perceptible at all. To the experienced eye, and a person. But I see her. As it seems to me, I'm going in the right direction. That's how friends are. I see the remains of a reflector in the distance. The canopy collapsed. Which is not surprising in principle. The shop is intact. The hearth too. Besides me here. No one set anything on fire. And apparently for a long time now. Well, actually, these are the conditions. Which we need for a full-fledged testing the axe. So to speak compatible. Business with pleasure. And I will start with restoring the shelter canopy. As you can see, the support beam, apparently rotten, broke under the weight of the canopy. Covered with 2 layers of moss. Fell down therefore. Now we need to find it and cut it down, such a capital log. Then try. Lift this whole canopy and fix it in the desired position. Now we need to find some thin dry wood and cut it into building material. In a good way, you could have just not bothered and dumped the first one, whatever came to hand. As you can see, any from sleep, virtually an ideal building material. But I don't want to spoil living trees. That's why I'll bother with finding something dry and already non-living tree, but at the same time it has not yet had time to rot thoroughly. And here's what you need. This rotten trunk fell. And with his fall, apparently broke the root system of a neighboring tree. This trunk is clearly rotten, but the neighboring tree is also dead, but not yet rotten. Well, at least judging by the bark. I'll knock him down. Simply a gorgeous result. Very evil axe. From troubles the barrel hung, and the top got stuck. But that's not a problem. I'll immediately cut up the pieces for the table now, which I also plan to do today. And look, little by little the tree will fall over. The land will have to be cut down in a non-standard position. But this makes it even more interesting. There is contact! This is such a log. Easy and simple. Well, friends, I opened up the whole trunk and I think this building material, I should have enough for the arrangement and restoration. Your parking lot. And by, I have only positive impressions of this Swede. I think you saw it perfectly well yourself, how easy he is like a wild beaver. Bites into dry and sticky wood. The process of cross-cutting with this axe before felling, it's actually going great. Now, all that's left is to haul away all the building materials we've received. In connection with that, I found the necessary dried fruit, well, at a fairly decent distance. And yes, friends, by the way, I also made an additional lube for hanging the axe, so as not to carry it in your hands, thereby increasing its functionality. Wow, friends! I'm honestly surprised! Look how long the nail is! And he was able to fly out. Well, or someone helped him. Marked! Now we prepare the pumpkin connections. There is no need to be too zealous here, so as not to weaken the structure. You just need to remove a little bit about the round logs. I have 150 of nails with me. And that's good. So, now on the other side. There is contact. Well, we still need to score 1 each for control. And now we're going to go through the whole canopy again. Beep, beep. Everything is clearly wrong. I don't see any cracks from sins. With 100% probability, such a canopy will hold precipitation. In fairness, it should be noted that you need to add layers periodically, because they tend to wash out. But that's another story. Let's move on. Well, the sun has already passed. It starts to get noticeably colder by midday. If during the day it was approximately 18 degrees Celsius, now I think it's somewhere around 12 degrees. Now let's move on to the bench. Overall, the shop has been preserved. The only thing that needs to be done here, this is to level the plane. That is, to trim it down a little. Pay attention, friends. On protruding round pieces, sit on such. To put it mildly, it's uncomfortable. Basically, if you needed, there are literally 10. Sit for 15 minutes, then it's okay. Well, what if you plan to sit longer? Read a book, or just relax by the fire. Your ass won't thank you. In any case, you need to level this bench into a plane, which is what we'll do now. That's all. We're done with the rough work. Now let's move on to something more settled. Clearly, this axe can be used confidently as a sports. The job is done better this way. I haven't yet decided on the log plank, due to the fact that it worked, as you noticed, at completely unnatural, non-right angles. As soon as I start working full-time, I think I'll finally draw my conclusions, but I can already say it now, that with this hatchet as well, can also be used as a scraper. Or, say, a plane. That is, to perform grinding, filigree work, where you need to remove a little bit at a time, and level some surfaces. They can do it easily and simply. The hatchet really helps with confidence to perform such tasks. And a little useful advice for those who doesn't often encounter this type of work. To make it easier, the main working hand is superimposed with the back of an axe, pressure is being applied, and with the second hand, due to the lever, the shaft, you are finalizing. And by and large, your right hand is only a guide, left main working, through speeches to overcome efforts, namely the resistance of wood. Much easier, but this is so if anyone doesn't know. A short lyrical introduction. I'm planning to heat the sauna today. It's just that we need to chop some wood a little. And at the same time, we will check the Swedes in this direction. So friends, in terms of chopping wood, this axe in principle shows very good results. Yes, I can say that he is just perfect for this. Increasingly, no matter how steep it is thinly reduced, but nevertheless, if you have the skills, performing stump chopping tasks with this axe is easy and simple, which is what you actually observe now. And the last task for today, between these two support trees, I'll install it now. Big lounger, which will be possible, among other things, can also be used as a cutting table, dining table, in general, whatever you like. For this, first from the obtained building material, I will need to make a frame for the structure, assemble it and fix it directly in place. Well, and then naturally, take the surface of the lounger itself, and to assemble the whole structure we will need 2 longitudinal 2 transverse beams, and 2 racks, and we will start with the simplest one, with fixation of one of the cross beams between 2 trees, which we will perform part-time. Function of the racks, but first you need to prepare the bud joint. Because there is a very thick layer of bark here, I won't scratch the trees myself. I will only remove this bark growth. We also cook from the backside. I think that's enough. Now I measure the distance and I'm preparing the first load-bearing beam. Well, now we just nailed the first beam. And friends, also a little useful advice. Optimal table height, in my opinion, is defined as follows. You stand at full height, calmly lower your right hand, and the thumb of the right hand should lie on a potential countertop. This will be the optimal height. First stand is ready. Now, we measure and cut off the second one of the same size. There is a contact. I made it a little longer. With that calculation, then I will hammer them into the ground a little, and for this the ends needs to be sharpened a little. Literally a little bit, friends. So to speak, for stability. In principle, I think this is enough. I think this is enough. Kim. I installed support posts with crossbars. More or less recorded. Now we will need to lay the longitudinal beam and take the span. Well, that's it. The frame is ready. Now we will have to take the entire span. But first you need to remove a little bit of the roundness so that the boards or poles fit more tightly. No more, so as not to weaken the structure. And for this, the logs will need to be cut into boards, or timber. I will use the 2 axes method. There is a contact double too. Yippee. there is contact and a third log. I hope this will last for the rest of the day. Yeah. And that, friends, by the process of experiencing, as I call it, although many argue in the comments, they say, what is the process of cutting a log into beams and boards? It's called something else. Yes, for God's sake, call it whatever you want. The gist is as follows: this axe shows good efficiency. And besides, I was definitely convinced of that the axe head is truly striking. Because now he was receiving, well, actually critical loads. And no deformations. Moreover, no cracks appeared in the eye. And immediately replied to the comment, which will definitely arise. In this matter, I was helped by a Finnish axe from Anika. In fact, there are quite a large number of methods about how to dissolve correctly log to board or timber, including using one axe. But now, in order to save time, since the video is already too long, I decided to speed up this process. And yes, if you are interested, learn about all these methods and ways, write in the comments, in one of his useful tips. I think I'll look into this topic in full, based on personal knowledge. Well, now all we have to do is fit the boards we got, and cover the span. This is what friends look like on style in a false form. In principle, I had enough building materials. There was even one spare board left. Here and there, of course, I had to hack to lay the logs. And first of all, I was interested in, so that they fit tightly to the support crossbar. Well, now I just nail it along 2 crossbars. Well, and then a little bit, I'll trim it up, surface in terms of knots and particularly protruding round logs. Well, that's all. Well, that's not all. I want to immediately work in the non-perspective and do 2 more scarves, with the help of which it will be possible to stretch it over the sunbed, if necessary, awning or poncho. There is nothing complicated here. I just take 2 thin poles, the ends of which I open at an angle of 45 degrees. I clean the connections with pumpkin, as on the poles themselves, and on the tree, and I just nail it in place. Well, that's probably it, and that's all. And as you noticed, I placed the remaining board on top in the form of a barbell. It will be very convenient to stretch the awning through it, or stretch the cloak, raincoat, poncho. Now that's all for sure. Well, naturally, you need to brighten up your eyes. Where are the dead eyes? Parking lot is not a parking lot. better. Herbal tea rules. Perfect. Let's sum it up. Based on the tests I have conducted, I can conclude that the axe is Swedish type from Boris Yurgin. In my opinion, it's really worth positioning as a general-purpose forest axe, capable of effectively performing both targeted as well as a number of applied problems. This axe is real, can be considered a full-fledged universal, and in this definition I put in as a functionality of the tober and its parameters. Overall, I honestly like the axe. Very angry, very confidently bites into the wood. And actually the balancing is good, and it is easy and pleasant to work with them. As for the disadvantages, I didn't find any obvious ones. There are a couple of conditional ones. First, conditional disadvantage of absence, blade cover included with the axe. For me, it's not a problem, but now I'm thinking from the point of view most of the ordinary people and potential buyers of this axe. Not everyone knows how to sew in principle, not to mention the specific leather goods there. It would be nice, of course, albeit for an additional fee, and naturally, if only Boris supplied his axes with covers on the blades. Well, there's one more drawback, which is actually quite relevant for me. No nafok CDO on Buddha Takim z aktualnym dla druga, liczna dla mina tankowado rukot. Esli my govram ova prosa valki tu es kogda rabitao na polnu amplitudu. Atot nedostatic neosasitsa, no kogda nuzno monogo sisad, a sagodna a monogo cecil toporov, obima ni otkrovino ne vaded. Isesno govera k konsu DNA pram predplitsa podzabalos, CDO bivat osa nikesto, druza zamet pozalista. V opsum dla mina ruko tankavado. No pavatoris etu moi likni predpaktinia. Sovasem nefakt, CDO u vas buda takala z istoria, CDO kasatsa dostoinspet tapora, nu v principe us v skazel, v hoda testerovani, sa raz kratinko probigus, vo 1y universal nost. Tu est a dot topper, kodorij mozno brad v kolichest v1 stuki, I vam ego h vadet na vis zadechi, vo 2y a2 visaka effected nost kaxa levi. Tak I prikwadni v zadeka, v3 e oblichneter micheska obrobokta klinka. V sedvertai optimum ne parametri. Vada meno zolat eserodina, ne bolse ne mens. Bolse us budat tasketslosni, mens, on budat v polovine zadak teret svu effectivnost. Poidomo a sidao, vot edu vot pram, fakšičeski zolatoi serodini vo vise smisla, nu isa 1 dostonsvo, kodoro vazmosno tolko diele mina buda dostwansivam, edu vot tako vot robosi grubo ispolmeni. Lichna a tako, a formlini svogo robosego instrumenta privitsvu. I lublu a ne lublu vod ti gladki slifovka. Bulastasi pavernosti I talk dali, keki to tam ukrasinia, I vis podobno. A lublu nastoasij, takaj muziki robot si instrument, kodorij ne zalko, kodorum smelo rabates I neo gem ne demes. I da obazatelnum obrazum ozvuku senu na a topper, na moment testerovania sina sostavlat 6,500 rubles. Da druza a2 netasevo. No taxi a2 silvasem netarogo. Esli v monitorite rhinoc nastoisa kavanai toporov v navernaka v curse, sina osin konkuret no spozobna. Na vieskidku a sekas naverno days ne nazavu izdilia, nu pokrajne miro dimenati mastriska kodori delat kastvini toperi. Po takaj stomasti, I movie vidu a menovat universally to kogo formata, naskiku ne smogu nazvid, v opsima sidao, CDO sina zadiz vpong primlima io pravdana, CDO nimlavazno, I podvoda obsij zina manatel dobavlu, esli tai is his topper. Kodorij po fektu smazit zakrit v stavoy potrebnosti, v lubum polovam vihod, na kempinj kak sekas mod no goverid. A taxi pre dolgoshrokni pohoda v Uslavia avtonomy, vot 1 is osin neploha variantov. Za vipaln primlimi dengi. Ne now keki trebovania uvas, no lichna vis moi potrebnosti, sagona eta topper zakril v polnojmir, nu I puzzlage, dobevlu sa1 remarku ko vasemu vaseskazanomo, druza ne zabivajta, cdo rubit ne topper, a rubit silovages pomosu topora, poedomu evamr komandu ne patataluzi, v plain togo, cdo v kupili dorgoj topper I smogli I am delit vis, presda viasigo uvas dolzni but neobodami neviki, no a horsage topper etu li potspor. Predostazani postavleni selej. Druza esli uvas ostalis, sa keki libova prosi po danomu taporu, pasite smelo v commentary, a posteras operative no na ni advedit, chrome togo, napasite na keki sa toperiode borisargina, v hodeli by uvade obsori na mom kanali, vis etu a posteras usadivat pre-planner of any dalne c video. V osara no draz navamanau, citabi v nazabavali podpisavatsa na index, dezen redapai, estisfino subshus vo vik, tak kak v scorum vermini, s bolsoj verodnastu youtube perestinet functionieravat, ses no govra, usekas u mina prosto ne veda terpinia, citabi tuda zagruz at roliki, nuzno preminit tam grandiozni obhotni shemi, ne now niskolko moya nerva vachvatit, no oni na ishod, v opsum citabi ne propuskad novi interesni video, ne zabivajda podpisavatsa na vis istochniki I posegi, a na Tom Prisla Pora Prosatsa I Kak Obigno, Hoku Pozilit Visem Skasta, I Krepko Go Zidarova.